All right, I'm back again, and let me share my screen. Cool. Okay, so where we just left off yesterday, or whenever you're reading this, is Kate DiCamillo, the author, left us with a cliffhanger, which we know she loves to do. And so she said, and then one day at dusk, right before he closed the shop, Lucius Clark placed another doll on the shelf next to Edward. So let's find out who that doll was. Here's a picture. Oh, wow. If you look really carefully, okay, so see Edward's face, like I'm pointing my clicker to it right here. See how you can see, um, I don't know if I can make this any bigger. Can I zoom in on this? I don't know. Anyway, see how you can barely see, it looks like there's a crack there? Look at her face. The whole thing looks cracked. Okay. There you are, milady. Meet the rabbit doll, said Lucius. The doll mender walked away, turning out the lights one by one. In the gloom of the shop, Edward could see that the doll's head, like his, had been broken and repaired. Her face was, in fact, a web of cracks. She was wearing a baby bonnet. How do you do? She said in a high, thin voice. I am pleased to make your acquaintance. Hello, said Edward. Have you been here long? She asked. Months and months, said Edward. But I don't care. One place is the same as another to me. Oh, not for me, said the doll. I have lived 100 years, and in that time I have been in places that were heavenly and others that were horrid. After a time, you learn that each place is different, and you become a different doll in each place, too. Quite different. 100 years? Said Edward. I am old. The doll mender confirmed this. He said as he was mending me that I am at least that, at least 100, at least 100 years old. Edward thought about everything that had happened to him in his short life. What kind of adventures would you have if you were in the world for a century? The old doll said, I wonder who will come for me this time. Someone will come. Someone always comes. Who will it be? I don't care if anyone comes for me, said Edward. But that's dreadful, said the old doll. There's no point in going on if you feel that way. No point at all. You must be filled with expectancy. Do you know what that means? Expectancy means like you are waiting for something or you're hoping for something. You must be awash in hope, right? So, like, fully awash would mean like fully bathed or fully covered in hope. You must wonder who will love you, whom you will love next. I'm done with being loved, Edward told her. I'm done with loving. It's too painful. Pish, said the old doll. Where is your courage? Somewhere else, I guess, said Edward. You disappoint me, she said. You disappoint me greatly. If you have no intention of loving or being loved, then the whole journey is pointless. You might as well leap from this shelf right now and let yourself shatter into a million pieces. Get it over with. Get it all over with now. I would leap if I was able to, said Edward. Shall I push you? Said the old doll. No, thank you, said Edward to her. Not that you could, he muttered to himself. What's that? Nothing, said Edward. The dark in the doll shop was now complete. The old doll and Edward sat on their shelf and stared straight ahead. You disappoint me, said the old doll. Her words made Edward think of Pellegrina. Did you think of her too? I did as soon as I heard those words. Of warthogs and princesses, of listening and love, of spells and curses. What if there was somebody waiting to love him? What if there was somebody whom he would love again? Was it possible? Edward felt his heart stir. No, he told his heart, not possible, not possible. In the morning, Lucius Clark came and unlocked the shop. Good morning, my darlings, he called out to them. Good morning, my lovelies. And he pulled up the shades on the window. He turned on the light over his tools. He switched the sign on the door to open. The first customer was a little girl with her father. Are you looking for something special? Lucius Clark said to them. Yes, said the girl. I am looking for a friend. Her father put her on top of his shoulders, and they walked slowly around the shop. The girl studied each doll carefully. She looked Edward right in the eyes. She nodded at him. Have you decided, Natalie? her father asked. Yes, she said, I want that one, the one in the baby bonnet. Oh, said Lucius Clark, you know that she is very old. She is an antique. She needs me, said Natalie firmly. Next to Edward, the old doll let out a sigh. She seemed to sit up straighter. Lucius came and took her off the shelf and handed her to Natalie. And when they left, when the girl's father opened the door for his daughter and the old doll, a bright shaft of early morning light came flooding in, and Edward heard quite clearly, as if she were still sitting next to him, the old doll's voice. Here he is, kind of on his own now, right? He lost his shelf mate. Open your heart, she said gently. Someone will come. Someone will come for you. But first, you must open your heart. So it sounds like the message from the old doll was that he has to believe, Edward has to believe that someone's going to come for him, that love is worth it in order for someone to come. We'll see. The door closed. The sunlight disappeared. Someone will come. Edward's heart stirred. He thought for the first time in a long time of the house on Egypt Street and of Abilene winding his watch and then bending towards him and placing it on his left leg, saying, I will come home to you. No, no, he told himself, don't believe it. Don't let yourself believe it. But it was too late. Someone will come for you. The China Rabbit's heart had begun again to open. Here's chapter 27. It looks like an umbrella, and somebody's either closing or opening it. I don't know who that is. We'll have to find out. Seasons passed, fall and winter and spring and summer. Leaves blew in through the open door of Lucius Clark's shop, and rain and the green, outrageous, hopeful light of spring. People came and went, grandmothers and doll collectors and little girls with their mothers. Edward Tulane waited. The seasons turned into years. Edward Tulane waited. He repeated the old doll's words over and over again until they wore a smooth groove of hope in his brain. Someone will come. Someone will come for you. And the old doll was right. Someone did come. It was springtime. It was raining. There were dogwood blossoms on the floor of Lucius Clark's shop. She was a small girl, maybe 5 years old, and while her mother struggled to close a blue umbrella, the little girl walked around the store, stopping and staring solemnly at each doll, and then moving on. When she came to Edward, she stood in front of him for what seemed like a long time. She looked at him, and he looked back at her. Someone will come, Edward said. Someone will come. The girl smiled, and then she stood on her tiptoes and took Edward off the shelf. She cradled him in her arms. She held him in the same ferocious, tender way that Sarah Ruth had held him. Oh, thought Edward, I remember this. Madam, said Lucius Clark, could you please attend to your daughter? She is holding a very fragile, very precious, quite expensive doll. Maggie, said the woman. She looked up from the still open umbrella. What have you got? A rabbit, said Maggie. A what? Said the mother. A rabbit, said Maggie again. I want him. Remember, we're not buying anything today. We are looking only, said the woman. Madam, said Lucius Clark, please. The woman came and stood over Maggie. She looked down at Edward. The rabbit felt dizzy. He wondered for a minute if his head had cracked open again and if he was dreaming. Look, Mama, said Maggie. Look at him. I see him, said the woman. She dropped the umbrella. She put her hand on the locket that hung around her neck. And Edward saw then that it was not a locket at all. It was a watch, a pocket watch. It was his watch. Who do you think that person could be? The mom has Edward's pocket watch around her neck as like a necklace. Do you have any guesses? Edward, said Abilene. Yes, said Edward. Edward, she said again, certain this time. Yes, said Edward. Yes, 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 it's me. Okay, so did you realize what just happened? So we've gotten to the end of the book. This is the last chapter, but there is one more part that I want to read to you. So what happened was a little girl walked into the store and she pulled the rabbit down, and the little girl's mom was Abilene. So remember how the author had told us years and years passed. So how cool is that? It kind of came full circle. So there's this little part at the end of the book called a coda. And a coda is it's almost like a nice ending to the story, or like an additional little piece that the author wanted to include. So let's read that together. It says, once there was a China rabbit who was loved by a little girl. The rabbit went on an ocean journey and fell overboard and was rescued by a fisherman. He was buried under garbage and unburied by a dog. He traveled for a long time with hobos and worked for a short time as a scarecrow. Once there was a rabbit who loved a little girl and watched her die. The rabbit danced on the streets of Memphis. His head was broken open in a diner and was put back together again by a doll mender. And the rabbit swore that he would not make the mistake of loving again. Once there was a rabbit who danced in a garden in springtime with the daughter of the woman who had loved him at the beginning of his journey. This girl swung the rabbit as she danced in circles. Sometimes they went so fast, the two of them, that it seemed as if they were flying. Sometimes it seemed as if they both had wings. Once, oh marvelous once, there was a rabbit who found his way home. All right, so there's some questions here that says to consider. I'm going to try to copy and paste these into our Google Slides for the week, so that maybe you can go through these and think about them, and maybe we can share during Google Meet. All right, let me see if I can stop sharing my screen. And all right, I can't believe we made it to the end of our first read aloud. I'm going to try to find some other books that I can read, not necessarily chapter books, but maybe some picture books. And I think you're going to have the chance to see some other Wellington faces read to you too. So I hope you're doing well. I miss you, and I will see you soon. Bye.